Well, let's just begin our panel finally. The previous session was delayed about like 20 minutes, so we will begin almost 3, and we should end at 3:50. So the title of this panel is Sustainability in Local Government Budgeting and Financial Management. I am Sunju Park, the Associate Professor at Gyeongbuk National University. And it is my honor to be here and moderating this panel. Thank you. I missed the good afternoon introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have very distinguished scholar here, Professor Carol Abdon from the University of Nebraska at Omaha, United States. She was the foundation professor, right? And also now emeritus professor of the School of Public Administration at University of Nebraska, Omaha. She is distinguished professor and scholar in participatory budgeting, and her accomplishments in the area of academia still influences a lot in Korean PA academia as well. She actually awarded Paul Posner Pracademic Award, right? It was first ever. I'm very honored and glad to have you here. And she actually arrived here in Korea last night. Please give her like big applause. Yeah, she will be the first presenter. And let me introduce our other presenter and discussant as well. Our second presenter is Byung-woo Shain Cho, who's assistant professor at Konkuk University. Can I say that he's the former student of Dr. Carol Abdon as well. And we have two discussants today, Ji-soo Kim, who's the assistant professor at University of Texas at Arlington. And she's also the former student of Professor Carol Abdon. Yes. And we have Serim Kim, assistant professor of Columbus State University, and she moved to Suffolk University this fall, right? Yeah. I think I'm in the middle of the school of UNO right now. Yes, it's like very announced. Yeah, let's do this. We kind of suffer from the time, so the presenters will make less than 20 minutes presentation, and the discussant will give us like 4 to 10 minutes discussants. So, yes, please welcome Dr. Carol Abdon, and other participants will go down and stay on the floor. Do you want to stay here? Can you see the okay, screen? So, okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me all right? I'm very happy to be here. This is my first visit to South Korea, so I'm thrilled. Very happy to be here and to see everyone, so thank you very much. I'm going to talk today about a project that I'm doing with two of my colleagues, Amy Franklin, who's a professor at the University of Oklahoma, and Wei-Jie Liao, who's one of my students who's graduating this summer and is taking a position in the United States. We're doing some work continuing our work looking at citizen engagement in the public budgeting process, and we're focusing it around sustainability. So it fits really nicely, I think, with the topic of this conference, and I'll be very interested to talk to some of you the rest of the week about sustainability. We are specifically looking here in this project at the US, budgeting in the US. And so our overall question is, how do the various types of sustainability that we can define in different ways, how do they relate to the use of citizen engagement in the budget process? So that's what we're focusing on. So there are kind of 3 sub-questions to that. One is, what are the priorities of governments that are doing engagement, that are using engagement? What types of sustainability are they really after? What are they focusing on relative to sustainability? Do the priorities change over time? And we're going to talk about different types of sustainability and how do they relate to each other in that process. This is a project that we are still working on, so this is a work in progress. We've done some of it, but we're still continuing to work on this topic. So we're looking at sustainability defined 4 different ways, and we're basing this around some previous work that I've done with some colleagues in Europe, Sonervo, Bartocci, and Latonen. That's some work that's going to be coming out next year. And so we look at 4 different types of sustainability. And the way that we relate that to citizen engagement is first talking about financial sustainability. So a lot of times governments will use citizen engagement when they need to make tough decisions about cutting the budget, for example. And so that's a way of having financial sustainability. And then also improving accountability to the public about what governments are doing. So that's how we define financial sustainability. Social political sustainability really revolves around the role of the public. Are we doing engagement in order to improve social equity? Are we doing it to build community? Broadly trying to empower citizens. So that would fit as social political sustainability. Environmental sustainability, we tend to think about in terms of things like climate change, really. It's more about the climate as a whole, although there are other ways to talk about environmental sustainability as well. And then last, we're interested in organizational sustainability, which we think about as, to what extent is engagement institutionalized? Is this something that governments try once and never do again, or do they do it repeatedly multiple times? And so just a little bit of background for those of you who aren't real familiar with the US. We have a long history in the United States of citizen engagement in the budget process. It's very much ingrained in what we do with budgeting. It's usually required. There's a lot of transparency around local government budgets, which is what I'm focused on here. Typically, there's a public hearing where citizens have the opportunity to express their opinions in a meeting before the budget's adopted. A lot of communities have advisory committees where they'll have citizens serve on committees and they talk about what's going on in the budget. A lot of governments will do surveys about the budget, so people have an opportunity to respond there. So again, we have a lot of traditional mechanisms that we use for engagement. More recently, our governments have been focused on a couple of fairly new things for us. One is budget simulations, and simulations are essentially usually online opportunities for citizens to try to balance the budget. So it's sort of like a game where the government will create an online simulator where maybe the budget isn't balanced and there's a budget gap between the revenues and the expenditures. And so citizens have an opportunity to make some decisions about what they would do to balance the budget. So these are becoming much more common in the United States. And so we've been seeing a lot more of these especially the last decade. We also are starting to use more participatory budgeting, which is you're more familiar with in South Korea. Many of your governments use participatory budgeting. This is fairly new in the US. This is the style of budgeting that's done in Brazil. So it's the Brazilian style participatory budgeting, where it's completely driven by citizens, well, almost completely driven by citizens. Citizens are actually making decisions. It's a complex, multi-stage process, takes quite a bit of time, but the citizens are actually deciding on how a certain part of the budget is allocated. This is fairly new in the US. Again, we've only seen this in about the past decade or so. So what we're doing in this project is we're looking at cities in the US that have used a third-party consultant to help them implement participatory budgeting or simulations. And so for the simulations, there's a company called the Balancing Act, which has helped a lot of cities develop these simulators. So they're very, if you look at one city's simulator, it's somewhat similar to another city. The details, of course, of their budget are different, but the product looks similar. It's a similar format, et cetera. And so Wei-Jie, my student, has completed interviews with 31 cities that have implemented simulations. And then we're also looking at the participatory budgeting, cities that have worked with an organization called the Participatory Budgeting Project that have instituted participatory budgeting. And so far we've got 20 cities that we have sufficient data that we found online and are able to look at. We're just going to start interviews this summer. So we have not interviewed yet for the PB cities. So that's why I said this is not a complete project yet. So what I'm going to share with you is what our preliminary findings are relative to the 4 different types of sustainability. So first is the financial sustainability. And so what you see with simulations, when you look at what the goals of the simulations are, almost half of the cities that we've interviewed are really trying to just educate citizens. So it's not so much about what the citizens want or what the citizens decide or what they're interested in. It's more about the government wants citizens to understand how hard it is to balance the budget. And they want to give them a sense that you can't just cut taxes without it having a big effect on services. And so for the most part, that's what a lot of cities are interested in with the simulations. They are also interested in building transparency or enhancing the process through making it more open. The simulations are relatively low cost. You pay a few $1,000s to the Balancing Act to help you develop the simulation, and then I think there's a little fee every year. But it's not very time consuming beyond that, and it's also easy for the consumer, for the citizen to use. They go online, they can spend a half an hour, or they can spend 2 or 3 minutes on it. So it's really very low resource. Mostly the simulators are used for a portion of the budget, which in the United States we have a number of different funds in our budgets. The general fund is most of the operating budget. And so 77% of these cities are doing the simulators for their general fund budget. So it's basically the operating budget of the community. So participatory budgeting, we see something quite different. With PB, what we see is that it really is about making decisions for over half. The goals are to have citizens actually making the decisions and impacting those decisions on how funds are used. It is very resource intensive, though, as probably many of you know from your experiences here. It takes a lot of time on the part of the participants, and it takes a lot of time on the part of the staff of the government that are helping to make this work and to review the projects, et cetera. And as opposed to the simulators, which are usually done for the general fund operating budget, for the most part, about half of the cases at least, it's usually just for a small portion of the capital funds for PB. So it's project driven rather than operating budget. In terms of socio-political sustainability, we see some differences and similarities here. So from simulations, about 41% have goals that they want to engage citizens. But again, and about 42% really do want to learn what citizens have to say or what the citizens really care about. Which you would think in budget engagement, you would hope that this would be higher than 42%. So that's somewhat limiting. We know very, very little about the participants in simulations. Many cities don't want to ask people because they want people to participate, and they feel like if they ask people for information about their age, their gender, their race, their ethnicity, their income levels, if they ask too much of that, people won't want to participate. And so unfortunately, it means we don't have as much information as we would like to have. The interviewees, 85%, which is a very high percentage, said that they think the simulations are very beneficial for the city. On the other hand, they have almost no effect on the budget decisions. So again, and that's because mostly these cities are trying to educate citizens. They're more than really trying to make differences in the decisions that are made. There's very low participation rates, less than 1% typically of the population participates in these simulators. So there are some big issues with that. From the participatory budgeting side, over half really want to increase citizen engagement. There's a little bit of empowerment, about a quarter want to do that. Improving community is about a quarter as well. And the social equity part, trying to reach underrepresented groups of people. There is quite a bit of focus on equity and trying to get these underrepresented people to participate, but there's still very low rates of participation for PB as well, as there is with simulations. Okay, in environmental sustainability, what's interesting is that as opposed to what I've seen in Europe with my European colleagues, where they're very heavily focused on the climate, for instance, and a lot of PB is built around climate change and how do we deal with that. We're not seeing that at all in the US, partly because some of our politicians pretend that climate change isn't real. And so what we see is that there are no goals for either PB or simulations related to the environment for the cities that we're looking at. On the other hand, if you think of COVID as being somewhat environmental related for health, public safety, those kinds of things, we are seeing the increasing use of simulators for figuring out how to use aid. Our federal government gave a lot of money to local governments to deal with COVID. And so what we've seen is that cities are increasingly using simulators for these types of activities, and the same thing with PB. They're using PB processes to decide how to use those funds. And then finally, in terms of organization sustainability, which is the institutionalization piece, this is not as good a story as we would like to tell. Almost 20% of the simulator cities that we've looked at have discontinued the use of simulators, so they maybe used it once or twice and then they stopped. For the most part, they said that this was because they either have very low participation rates or they had changes in leadership. You know, the mayor liked the idea and then we got a new mayor and the new mayor didn't care anymore, and so we stopped doing it. But 45% have used them multiple times, 4 to 7 times. The maximum was 7. What we also saw with the simulations is that there's quite a bit of adaptation over time. So they're not doing exactly the same thing. They're learning as they go along and they're making changes to it. And mostly that's either they're using it for different things like COVID aid, or they're figuring out ways to simplify it to make it easier for citizens to try to make these complex decisions and understand the budget better. And they're trying to do additional outreach efforts to reach more people. With PB, the oldest use of PB in the US was in the city of Chicago, which started in 2009. In terms of continuity, the city of Vallejo, California has done it the longest so far that we've seen. They had a continuous process from 2013 to 2023. There are some that were doing it fairly continuously until COVID hit, like New York City has done PB for quite a while, but they stopped during COVID, and now they're just slowly restarting again. So COVID really does seem to have affected the use of participatory budgeting in particular. So our preliminary conclusions are that the goals focus mostly on the 2 types of sustainability, the financial and the socio-political. There is limited amount of institutionalization of these, which is the organizational sustainability piece, but we are seeing some adaptation over time in terms of that type of sustainability. And there does seem to be some relationship between the 4 types of sustainability. And the example I use here is the COVID, where you can see this as being really about the environment, and yet it's also affecting or related to the financial sustainability and the organizational sustainability. The big challenges, which is true with many other types of engagement efforts as well, not just these 2, but we're seeing similar things here. The challenges are the resources and the time involved, particularly with participatory budgeting, which is very highly resource intensive, and that creates issues. Leadership support appears to be very important, as it is with most other things that we see in local government. But it really needs leaders to make this a priority in order to make it happen and to make it continue. Participation rates for both of these efforts are quite low, and so that's a major challenge if we're going to continue to do these things. How do we build participation? And then finally, we see that there are different types of goals. And different cities have different goals, and the goals may change over time. What we're not really clear about yet is to what extent do the outcomes reflect what the goals are? Are the outcomes similar? Are they what we wanted to achieve or not? And so that's one of the big things we're going to keep looking at as we continue this research project. And thank you very much. I appreciate any input you have.
Thank you very much for delivering your presentation. It was very impressed to see the simulations and also the PB in the United States. And also my personal academic interest is in sustainable development and energy policy, something like that. So it is very interesting to see there's no goals for environmental sustainability aspects. Okay, the title was Sustainability and Citizen Engagement in U.S. Local Government Budgeting. Let's move to our second presenter. The Shine Cho's research is entitled, What Does Sustainability Mean? An Analysis of Local Government Leaders' Budget Speech.
Okay, just thank you very much for your introduction. Hi, my name is Byung-woo Shine Cho from Konkuk University, and I'm bringing actually research proposal kind of presentation titled "What Sustainability Means: Analysis of Local Government Leaders' Budget Speech." So, my presentation consists of three parts. The first one is kind of sustainability in public budgeting project reboot, because I started investigating this topic about 10 years ago when I started my PhD program, but I couldn't finish it. So as Dr. Abden just sent her title to me for the KAPS conference, I just kind of reminded my old kind of passion about the sustainability in public budgeting, and then just prepare for this research. So I want to introduce what I did about 10 years ago about sustainability in public budgeting. And second one, I would like to introduce why I just revisited this issue, the sustainability in public budgeting, because since then, we have kind of several changes. So new terms like the Sustainable Development Goals and then ESG, environmental, social, and governance themes or kind of comes up, and then recently in Korea, the carbon neutralization kind of budgeting proposals were adopted by the central government, and then local government is expected to adopt them soon. So I just supposed to have some kind of preliminary findings, but actually I conducted the content analysis of the budget message from all local government in South Korea. It is 245, and then I collected the budget message from 2002 to 2022. So just 20 years of kind of budget messages. So just now I'm kind of keep reading. I finished collected those kind of documents, and I'm just keep reading them right now. So I couldn't bring the kind of something that can be called as a preliminary kind of findings, but I can share some kind of exemplary usage of some terms like environment and then sustainability with you, and then ask for your kind of some good advice to kind of keep pursuing my research goals. Okay, here is the history. So I started my kind of PhD program in 2012, and then at that time, I was thinking about kind of sustainability and what it means in public budgeting. So I prepared several kind of research presentations, titles such as "What does sustainability in budget message refer to among the values of public budgeting," which is very close to the topic that I brought today. And the second one was the literature review of sustainability in governmental finance research. And then also I just tried to kind of write a piece about the things like does having sustainability goals influencing the fiscal condition of local government, and then the internal diffusion of sustainability in terms of performance PPBS. So yeah, it was kind of really big aim, but in the middle of the study, I changed my dissertation topic, and then it remains as a kind of unfinished work that I will finish soon with the Korean kind of data. But actually, the findings that I have at the moment is still kind of valuable to understand the sustainability in public budgeting and financial management. So when you talk about the sustainable development, it comes from the UN's kind of our common future. And then since then, just the people just mentioned that just we need to pursue the sustainable development that keep our environment clean and then keep our enlarge our kind of social equity in our society, as well as we developed our society economically. And then the sustainability has become one notion of the government finance in terms of fiscal sustainability, sustainable budget, and sustainable procurement. So about 10 years ago, we already have terms like that, and then people just trying to apply the idea of sustainable development to the public budgeting and financial management. Nevertheless, at the time, those terms were not being used coherently by scholars and practitioners. So they defined the concept of sustainability or the word sustainable development in various ways due to the fragmented understanding of the terms. So what I did was to kind of investigate the U.S. city government's kind of budget messages, the budget in front of the budget document to the council, and then trying to figure out what I just tried to kind of establish a kind of theory of sustainable budgeting by merging two ideas. One was the 3 principles of sustainable development, and then the other one was the 7 values in public budgeting theories. So actually, the Jimering's article just argued that it was kind of beneficial to know how local government officials understand the meaning of sustainability because they can exercise administrative leverage to shape the sustainability policy in their territory. So by identifying the meaning of sustainability, I was trying to find the kind of meaning of sustainability in the budget messages, and then actually it is kind of really, I assume that it is kind of connected to the government policy about sustainability at the time. So in the context of 2014, so I conducted a content analysis of latest budget messages of principal cities in the United States based on the kind of unauthorized research strategies. And then for the key concepts, so budget message is the kind of budget letter from the mayor of the local government to the council in front of their kind of budget document. So it is kind of, actually it varies. Some local government to write a kind of very short paragraph as a kind of budget letter, just writing, this is the budget document, that's it. But for some kind of city governments, they provide further information, like the very kind of short summary of their entire budget and the policy directions for the upcoming years. So 2 to 3 to 4 pages, they writing down what the city government pursuing for the next year, and then it contains some kind of values of their kind of policy directions. And the principal cities are the most important cities within that kind of state. So it is the largest cities in each metro or the micropolitan area. So I thought that it is meaningful to see the changes of those cities that has a capacity to kind of have a better understanding about the innovative issues like sustainability. Then when I just count the terms used in those budget messages, I found that the term the sustain was kind of found used 349 times, and then it's like sustain or sustainability and sustainable. So I found that just kind of mayors use the term like fiscal sustainability and financial sustainability 25 and 70 times in their title, and then sustainable community, sustainable budget, sustainable development was used 876 times. And then those terms were used to highlight their goal. So just sustainability and sustainable development is our goal of the city, or they use the sustainability as a criterion for evaluating the current fiscal state conditions, like our budget is sustainable or not. So here is some kind of examples how they use the terms, but it is for the kind of time constraint, I cannot read through everything. But it shows that just different cities use the term in different ways. So this is what I found from the research, that just it has politically, managerially, kind of technically different aspect. And then one of the interesting things was that just there was a kind of ignorance on the mutual complementariness of sustainable development. It means that they highlighted only economic development or environmental protection, not considering sustainable the social equity as important. Or also I found that just they found that reducing expenses in employee benefits or the kind of is a kind of some kind of threat to harm their kind of fiscal sustainability, or they also argue that just economy and efficiency are necessary for the sustainable budgeting. And also they try to adopt that concept in the performance management and the forecasting method. And also I conducted a literature review of PA journals and then how they mention sustainability in their articles. And then what I found was that there was kind of some separations. So actually I supposed to kind of enlarge the screen from here if I can have control, but I'm sorry that just now I cannot do it here. So just I will later just send out the document. But what I did was that how sustainability was mentioned in kind of different kind of type of journals and then the connection between them. But what I found was that actually there was a significant separation between the sustainable development related document and then the public budgeting and financial management journals that contains the sustain in their title. And then actually the sustainability was comparatively new in government finance research, because at the time the fiscal sustainability or the sustainability in economy is mentioned in the economic sectors for previously, but just it is something new. And then what I found was that the sustainability was considered as the revenue expenditure balance in the field of government finance. So people say that just if it is unbalanced, then it is not sustainable. And also the pension and the other post-employee benefit is considered as a threat to the sustainability in government finance. So many articles about the sustainability, they kind of highlighted the risk of their kind of budgeting state, the budgetary status, and actually those kind of benefits will threat the sustainability of the government budgeting. So that's what I did. And then it somehow just still have some kind of meaningful way of kind of understanding the sustainability of public budgeting right now. And then why I revisited the sustainability right now. So because we have kind of some new concepts, and then that there was kind of recent changes in Korea, which is related, very closely related to the kind of sustainability discussion. So actually the UN SDG, soon after I just conducted that research, presented the Sustainable Development Goals. And then related to the 17 goals, there are many scholars who studied the relationship between Sustainable Development Goals and then the public budgeting and financial management. So here I looking for the articles about the performance of public budgeting and the sustainability, such as from the Journal of Public Management, Public Money and Management, and Journal of Public Budgeting, Accounting, Financial Management, and then the public sector economy, and the other kind of articles. They mentioned, they dealt with the topics related to the sustainable development goals related to the public finance. Most of them kind of highlighted only certain kind of number of goals, and then just connecting it to the public budgeting. So it is not a kind of, how can I say, it's a comprehensive approach to the sustainable development goal and the public budgeting. But it was very interesting to see them. They have some kind of, they try to connect those concepts into one and then find a kind of indicators of the sustainability, sustainable development goals in public budgeting. And also after that, just we have terms like ESG. So ESG refers to the environment and social and governance, and it was a term developed after the corporate social responsibility, so-called CSR. So at first, people highlighted what the corporate need to pursue as a social responsibility. Then later the concept became a ESG. So now every companies is using the ESG instead of the CSR. But at first it was discussed in the field of private kind of institutions, but now it comes to the government institutions. Then if I highlight some kind of ESG for public enterprise, actually just I made a mistake in my previous slide, but actually the Moody's and S&P, some kind of leading kind of government credit rating as companies, they use ESG to measure the kind of credibility of the countries. So they have a ESG ratings for each countries. And also in South Korea, the Ministry of Economy and Finance is enlarging the ESG indicators to the public enterprise information disclosure system. So based on that policy direction, that public institution enterprise need to disclose those information like product purchase performance, greenhouse gas reduction performance, and then it is kind of the practice that was supported by the central government. And also, we have very interesting change in public budgeting. So like gender-based budgeting. So in 2023, the central government adopted the climate responsive budget proposal. So it is the 탄소 중립 인지 예산. Actually, the Korean government, the previous President Moon declared the 2050 carbon neutral in October 2020, and also in the same year, December, he established the 2050 the carbon neutral promotion strategy. And then with that, the government revised the government passed the revision of the National Finance Act and the National Accounting Act in June 2021 to reflect the effect of budget on greenhouse gas reduction in the government budgeting and execution. And then in 2021, they set up the kind of a framework act on the carbon neutral and green growth, which is the legal basis for responding to the climate crisis and achieving the 2050 carbon neutrality. Included the regulations on the greenhouse gas reduction cognitive budgeting system. So, which is this kind of one is a system that evaluates the impact of budgets and fund operated by the state and local government on greenhouse gas reduction and climate change and reflect the result in the government financial management process, such as budgeting execution. And then national government agencies implemented the climate responsive budget proposals in 2023, and local governments are conducting pilot studies to adopt them in kind of couple years. So it will adopt like 2023, 2004 soon. So here is, I'm sorry for bringing up some kind of the table written in Korean, but I just recently kind of found one. I want to share it. At least it was Korean. So actually, it shows each kind of local government in Korea how they plan to adopt this kind of budgeting proposal system. So in Seoul is planned to adopt it in 2023, and Gwangju, Sejong, Gyeonggi are also trying to just kind of considering it. And then also the other major provinces like Chungbuk, Chungnam, Jeonnam, Gyeongbuk, and Jeju, they are trying to adopt that kind of practice. So it will soon be very kind of popular in Korea, because among the local government in South Korea, that policy diffusion is so fast. So my question was what terms related to sustainability, such as like SDG, ESG, and carbon neutral, are mentioned in Korean local government leaders' budget speech, which is called 시정연설, which was not the budget letter, but the kind of speech in front of the council members when he submit the mayor submit the budget, main budget, and then I aim to conduct some content analysis of budget speeches and then collect data from 17 upper level local government and 226 lower level government. And then my goal is to checking the contents, what they mention about the sustainability, SDG, ESG, environment, something. So actually the research, so I just kind of read through the kind of letters and then found that just they use those terms actually, but it is just kind of simple mention about the environment. That's it. For example, the Gyeongju here, the Gyeongju's kind of budget letter, it said that the establishing the basic environmental education center in the line with the era of carbon neutrality. So just kind of general mention about the status. And then 고양, 구로, 성 has kind of similar kind of usage of terms sustainability and environment. And then Seongdong has, Seongdong-gu Seoul has very interesting mention about the ESG, and that it says that it has its own ESG indicators. So with this data, what I would like to do is to understand the change over time, how those concepts are mentioned, how the priority or importance of those concepts changes over time from 2000 to 2022. And then I would like to see some kind of variation across the local government at the same time. And the goal from now is to understand the causal relationship related to those findings. So does having those kind of concepts in the budget message matters? If it matters in what? And so what it affect or not. So I ask for your advice about my future research endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting to see your former, previous research and also your current and future research plan. It reminds me to the time that I actually was on the floor when Shine presented his 2014 presentation as a COPA in the United States. And all right, let's give chance to our discussant. Can you make less than 6 minutes discussion?
Thank you for the great presentation for both presenters. I'm so happy to hear your research in Korea, not in US. Both presenters brought a really important concept in public administration, which is sustainability. Because the resources are limited, but public service demands are always high, we always need to figure out how to balance our limited resources and provide services as much as we can. So because of the economy and society fluctuation over time, we experienced COVID-19 recently. Sustainability is a very, very important topic, and both presenters brought a really great concept in this presentation. And for the first presenter, Professor Carol Ebden, the topic, linking sustainability and citizen engagement, is very interesting and timely, and it's a great approach to look at the 4 different types of sustainability and how and to what extent they are embedded in participatory process. And for the Professor Shine Cho, although it is about 10 years old work, I still think that it is very important that we need to define what sustainability really means. Because eventually, when we allocate limited resources, if we don't have a clear definition about sustainability, we may misleading of the resource allocation. That really lead to the policy outcomes. So clear definition is very critical from the goal setting stage to the goal outcomes. And also his pilot study is very interesting, and I see that many cities in Korea have focused more on environmental sustainability, which is embedded in budgeting process in a type of budget proposal. Also, we are now in Gyeongju, and it seems that Gyeongju is trying to kind of build a center for environmental educating center, which is type of the kind of the citizen engagement. So I think that research is probably linked back to the first presenter, Professor Carol Ebden, in terms of the 4 different types of sustainability. While the U.S. cities, the example, we didn't find the kind of the sustainability in participatory budgeting or simulation. we found that there are some of the sustainability of financial and socio-political sustainability. And I thought that that's really fascinating. And I would like to ask some question about the financial sustainability. The result kind of does suggest that simulation tool educate citizens usually for the general fund budget, but participatory budgeting usually focusing more on the small portion of the capital budget. So I wonder whether you have observed any reason why cities typically do not use capital budget to educate citizens through simulations? And also, was there any sustainability challenges to have citizens impact on operating budget through the participatory budgeting tool? Also, for the social political sustainability, one of the goals of the participatory budgeting seems to be reaching underrepresented groups. So I wonder whether you have observed any good examples or cases to invite socially marginalized group in budgeting and how cities give them power in decisions. Those are my two questions to Professor Karaptin. And for Professor Shine-Cho, I wonder whether there are some of the link between sustainability and citizen engagement or participatory budgeting, if you observe any cases or examples.
Right, we should hear this question first, and then we can give chance to the presenters and floors as well.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm Serin Kim, Suffolk University assistant professor. So this session was very relevant in this time right now. We're thinking about all the other countries confronting financial debt and disasters and generational gap and linking together that we're having difficulties of that, and also definitely diversity, inclusion, and representation. Those values are very important in public service and public administration. So definitely this sustainability and sustainable budget, those two topics are really important. And Dr. Cho and Dr. Apton study, like research has discussed a lot important brings us an important implication about this. And similar to the Dr. Kim, Jisoo Kim, and I think definition or differentiating or defining correctly about the sustainable budget versus maybe sustainability in budget process. So we're talking two different concepts. And when we talk about sustainability, and Dr. Apton defined 4 different sustainability, like financial, social, economics, and organizationals, and the last one was, the third one was environmental sustainability. So those all are connected, and those are all important concepts in the sustainability. And also, I really like that she discussed about the organizational sustainability, which is not just like a temporary implementation. We're talking about the repeated implementations and possibly institutionalizing all this meaningful motivation that we're trying to achieve for our future generation. So. And also it's really happy to see that 2 different types of the sustainability in budget process, like simulations and participatory budgetary. So we in Korea, in the context of the Korea, we definitely saw a lot of participatory budgeting or budget process, but not much in simulations. When I teach public budgeting class, definitely I try to bring all this budget simulation case, state level, city level, municipal government level, try to bring and try to get my students or try to encourage that my students to try try this budget simulation with friends and family. So this simulation, budget simulation in the classroom is very helpful. But as Dr. Apton pointed out, that the participation rate of this simulation is very low, probably very not accessible too much. So the impact of the simulation could be very low or very invisible at this point. So I think in the implication to the Korea, in the context of the Korea, maybe simulation can be the way that our citizens in Korea or municipal government can encourage the sustainability in budget process. Because I don't think even as a I study about public budgeting and financial management, I never saw a simulation project or exercise in the context of the Korea. So I think that's one of the topic that we could actually apply in the context of the Korea, and they're very beneficial because a lot of students of my students actually loves that simulation process, like budget simulation case, and definitely even in U.S. The simulation changes a lot because of the leadership changes. I mean, as Dr. Apton pointed out in her research. Other than that, I think I was kind of personally curious how did Dr. Apton selected those cities that she interviewed. So maybe I will ask at the end of presentation, at the end this session. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your discussion. I'd like to hear from the floor. Yeah. Do we have mic? Yes, we have mic here.
Thank you very much. My name is Nurlia Nurdin. I'm from Stialand, Jakarta, Indonesia. It's a great presentation, and it's really related also for what I'm concerned on my presentation on leadership and smart city, because it's about budget allocation. So as I always state that we only can have a good governance with the smart people with demand for budget participatory, as you mentioned earlier. That's really core of the democracy. So people not only come to choose and elect their representation, but also demand for transparency in the budget allocations. So my question is both for the presentation. In case of US, you have these cultures of a public hearing. Earlier of American history, is there people demand for the openness of the governments, or the government itself feel like we want to be open to the society? Because most developing countries have a lack of this openness. So like the government go by their programs, and then people also waiting, they do not demand that much. That would be a problem to achieve public services. And also in Korea cases, how do you start to have this budget sustainability for the public services? Is there any, let's say, a program on an action in the earlier of your transparency, budget transparency, that can emerge a public participation in budget allocation? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, second question.
Thank you very much. It was very nice presentation from Professor Apton and Professor Cho. And I have one question for Professor Apton. When you said that there's a challenge about participation rate, did you notice there's something specific or unique in one or two cases that you do the simulation, right? So because I'm thinking that in terms of, in our case, for example, in Indonesia, I'm Mala, sorry, from Nepal School of Administration, same with Professor Nurlia. And I'm thinking that in the case of Indonesia, for example, we are a developing country, and then citizens tends to ignorance with this kind of thing about the participations. They tend to become very rationalist. They cost-benefit analysis. What is the benefit for me? Is there any benefit? If there is no benefit, why should I participate? Something like that. So did you find something interesting like that in your simulation? And then for Professor Choi, I have, because I also work in content analysis using the newspaper. So I was wondering if how you handle the bias, because you using the latest budget messages from principal cities. So maybe I can learn from you to handle the bias, because every time I present my paper, the questions always pop up, how you handle the bias, because you use newspaper report when you study about corruption. That's the question for me. Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion and questions as well. It's your turn again to the I think so, yeah, until probably 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will give just a couple of responses. Thanks to the discussants, good comments and questions, and we can discuss some of those later. So I guess I'll go to the questions here. The question about, do people demand openness in the US, or is it the governments that are pushing it? That's a really interesting question, and I would say it depends. It depends on the community a lot. In many communities, the governments really would prefer that citizens just keep out of everything, and because they know everything, and they're, the government officials know everything, and they'd like to just not have to listen to what the citizens want. But there are many other governments that do care about the public, and they do want to foster democracy and engage citizens and all that. So there's really a wide variety. But what I would say in the US that's common is that there are laws. There are a lot of laws about transparency and accountability in the US. And so public hearings are pretty much required before you adopt a budget everywhere. And so a lot of it is just built in, it's baked into the process, is what I would say to that. And then question about participation rates, and this is not something that varies. We're just seeing there's just low participation in all of these methods, and it does seem to drop off. And with simulations, one of the problems with simulations is people will start it and then they get bored. So they'll spend a couple minutes, and if it's too hard for them and they can't figure out how to balance the budget, they just stop. And they don't want to spend any more than 2, 3, 4 minutes on it. And you might find that in your classes too when you teach. We can talk about that. And so that's part of the problem there. So getting the participation rate up is hard. And in some other work that I'm doing with people in Europe, we're finding some fatigue as well over time, that people just, they thought PB was fun at the beginning, and then after a couple years, the rates seem to drop off quite a bit. So there's some big issues, I think, with the participation rates that need to be looked at more. Thank you.
Okay, just thank you very much for the comment from the discussant and the floors. And then, okay, for the time constraints, so we can continue the conversation later after we finish the colors up here. But one thing I like to highlight is that just the linkage between the sustainability and sustainable development or environmental or ESG issues to the citizen engagement is getting more and more important. So particularly in the European countries, they are organizing the kind of Citizen General Assembly, discuss the climate change. So the climate change is not the matter of some people, but the matter of all. And then some European countries adopt that kind of citizen engagement system to discuss about the climate kind of change itself, as well as our strategy to encounter those kind of challenges. So I think that it will get more and more, it will get more and more important between the sustainability issues and those kind of citizen engagement. And then hopefully I would like to see more public budgeting discussion in that kind of venue, because without money matters, there's nothing can be done. So to adopt something, some policies actually, just we need to have more and more discussion about public budgeting related to those kind of sustainability issues. That's Oh, thank you very much.
Right. Thank you all the participants here. I think the title and the topic of our panel today is really timely issue in both practice and academia as well. Maybe we will continue our conversation outside the conference room. Thank you for your listening and participation today. Enjoy your rest of the day. Okay, thank you.